Panthers, the team came to terms with Teddy Bridgewater, 3 years, $63 million. He will replace Cam Newton in Carolina. And the team said they gave Newton permission to seek a trade. Newton said he was forced into that situation. He seemed very upset about the way this was portrayed. And you can see as he posted, "Stop with the wordplay. I never asked for it. There's no dodging this one. I love the Panthers to death and will always love you guys. Please do not try and play me or manipulate the narrative and act like I wanted this. You forced me into this. Love." Let me bring Adam Schefter back into the conversation because it does appear Cam Newton is going to need a new place to go. What is the latest you're hearing on a trade partner for Cam Newton?
Well, here's the interesting part about this, Greeny, and so many stories will come back to this in the end. Basically, Cam Newton hasn't been healthy. So any team that's going to trade for him is going to want him to take a physical. They're going to want to get their hands on him. The problem is, can't do that in this day and age. You're not allowed to visit with players. Facilities are closed. So who's going to trade for Cam Newton and his $19.1 million salary at times like this when they can't figure out whether or not he's healthy? Plus, you're seeing the starting jobs filled on an almost daily basis. Teddy Bridgewater takes the Panthers job. Phillip Rivers takes the Colts job. Tom Brady is going to take the Buccaneers job. How many other starting quarterback jobs are there out there at this point in time? So there's a shortage of jobs. There's a surplus of quarterbacks. There's restrictions on the travel and what teams can do with the physicals. And it all creates a situation in which, as much as Carolina wants to trade Cam Newton, it might, in the end, be forced to release him because they have no trade partner because of all the situations that are unfolding in this country right now.
Absolutely. Shefty, well done. Thank you. I want to go back to Dan and Marcus on this because I think that's an important point to pick up. Listen, Cam Newton is not that far removed pardon me, from being the MVP of the National Football League. Health, obviously, is the big question. But do you see a place? Shefty is talking about not that many options. Marcus, I'll start with you. Do you see a place where Cam Newton could go next year, be the starting quarterback, and make a difference?
Gee, I just go back to history and what we talked about with the Chicago Bears possibly. And Matt Nagy, obviously, Mitch Trubisky is a question mark. They want to do things athletically with their quarterback, but this is so difficult to Shefty's point. Thinking about the health, man. Listen, there would be no conversation around Cam if he was a healthy quarterback. He would be one of these guys that would be in free agency, and we would be on pins and needles trying to figure out where he was going if it got to that point. Maybe the Redskins. Maybe reconnect with Ron Rivera in Washington. He just brought Thomas Davis back from the LA Chargers. That may be a relationship that they can facilitate down in Washington with a young quarterback in Dwayne Haskins and possibly have Cam as a backup. But like you mentioned, $19 million, a quarterback that we don't know if he's healthy. Can he stay healthy as well? I think at this point, between Washington and Chicago is where I would tell you, Greeny.
What do you think, Dan?
Greeny, let me be very clear here. If Cam Newton is healthy and he goes to the Los Angeles Chargers, that is an outstanding match. Because the reality is this, Cam has done and does two things really, really well. One, we know run the football, and that could become part of Anthony Lynn's offense. And two, throw the football downfield. Now they have Mike Williams and Keenan Allen and Hunter Henry. They have guys that can go downfield and make big plays down the field. That's something that Cam has done well. So if, and I know that's the big if there, but if he's healthy, Cam can still be very, very good at that position. Now, that being said, that's the great unknown because 3 surgeries in the last couple years, and you're talking about a quarterback that's been banged up. It's almost like the reverse of Tom Brady, right? Tom Brady slowed down the aging process by the way he played and not taking a ton of hits and the way he dieted and lived his life. And Cam Newton kind of expedited the growing process or the aging process because of all the hits he took. And so that's the great caveat here is what are teams going to get with Cam Newton? But if you're going to tell me that they can find a way to get a doctor and looking at Cam Newton and he says, yep, Cam's surgery is fully healed, and that year off last year kind of rejuvenated his body, you can absolutely get really, really good quarterback play out of Cam Newton still.
Yeah, that would make sense, but then Marcus, here's what I keep coming back to, because we talk about the reasonable price tag and everything else. Well, no team has a better sense of where he is than the Carolina Panthers do, understanding that it's a new coaching staff and everything else, but he's there, and to whatever degree he's been anywhere, he's been there. If he was healthy, I have to believe that he would be staying there, that they would be giving that another shot with him, right? Isn't that an indication that one would look at and say, That's not a good sign.
G, to your point, man, we heard this owner talk about if Cam is healthy, we'll talk about it. And I tell you guys all the time, when you're sure about your quarterback, you speak surely about your quarterback. And we knew at that point there were some things arising. Obviously, Joe Brady being there. And to me, man, there's a point with Teddy Bridgewater and what I see with Joe Burrow as well and what John Brady, the new offensive coordinator, possibly wants to do. When I saw this Teddy Bridgewater contract and when I saw that they were after him, I was like, look, that's very familiar to what Joe Burrow has the ability to do. Obviously, the connection with them being in New Orleans together as well, but I just never saw Cam coming back to Carolina because people will mum, especially when the owner says what he says. Now, Matt Rule comes out and he saves face and talks about possibly wanting to coach Cam, but when you have a quarterback in the building for everybody watching and you want that quarterback in the building, you at every stop, every possibility that you have to address the media or address that quarterback or address your team, you reassure them and everybody else that that is your guy. That is not what the owner of the Carolina Panthers did.
All right, Dan, I see you shaking your head at him. I'm going to let you respond in a couple of minutes. I have to take a very short break here, but we will come back and we'll find out what it is that he's saying that Dan so thoroughly disagrees with. As we continue, we have much more to do as we get up with you this morning. It's a question that hasn't been asked in New England for 20 years. Who's the quarterback going to be? Are the Patriots really set with Jarrett Stidham? We have the very latest coming up. So we'll try to answer that question, and we'll try to answer this. From Sneaky Hembo, who was the last quarterback to start a playoff game for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Tom Brady will try to be the next. Who was the last? We'll answer that as we continue. You're watching Get Up on ESPN. 77, who was the first one I saw on my Twitter feed who got the answer right, which is Jeff Garcia, who lost to the Giants in a wild card game in 2007, or the 2007 season. He didn't even take a guess, and yet somehow Dan Orlovsky still managed to get it wrong.
Dark day, dark day.
I woke up this morning with a giant smile on my face, and it only got smaller and smaller as the day went on.
I don't even want to see him play for another team, but, I mean, I have no choice.
I feel like my wife just called me at 20 years of being happy and said, we're getting a divorce today. Bad, all the great memories we had together are just running through my head, and all the great games, all the fun that all the joy he's brought in my life. It's unbelievable. I'm total shock today.
This will begin the Brady curse. They're not going to win crap, and I hope they don't win anything ever again.
Patriot fans are understandably upset with Tom Brady leaving New England while they think their football world is over. Maybe this will cheer somebody up. Caesar still has them as the favorite to win the AFC East, although once an undisputed favorite. Now there's just a slight one over the Bills, who got better this week with the acquisition of Stephon Diggs. Let me bring Mike Reese in from Foxborough, our Patriots reporter. Mike, we just heard from all these fans who were calling into 98.5 The Sports Hub throughout the day yesterday. What has the reaction been from Brady's now former teammates in New England?
Greeny, life after Tom Brady, the morning after, and just to get a feel for if this was real, I go pick up your Boston Globe this morning, and I wanted to pass it along to you to give you a feel to start off going south. Tom Brady with the big picture there, and then trying to put some humor into it, your Boston Herald. Here's the Florida man. Welcome to Tampa. Brady leaving Pats for the Bucs. But, you had asked me about how the teammates are reacting, and I want to give you my sense, and just taking the temperature of them. In one sense, it's hard for them to believe that Tom Brady could be in another uniform, but in another sense, all of them in that locker room have been through business negotiations with the Patriots, and some of the great leaders in this team have had one foot out the door at times and come back, and others have had one foot out the door at times and left. So in that sense, the idea that it could happen to anyone that has played for the Patriots is a thought among those players in the locker room. I wouldn't say they're totally shocked that this is the end result.
And so obviously the Patriots do go on. We just saw Caesar says they're the favorite to win the division, which is remarkable considering there's really no clarity from what I can tell at the quarterback position. Where do they plan to go from here there?
Well, Greeny, they're going to add a third quarterback. They only have 2 on the roster, but the question is really when. And my understanding of how this is going to go is they're obviously monitoring all opportunities because they're going to add one at some point, and it's just a matter of what becomes available at the right cost. So an example, the Colts, if they're agreeing with Phillip Rivers, what does that mean for their backups, Jacoby Brissett and Brian Hoyer, who have Patriots ties? If one of them maybe comes available, perhaps they could move in that direction. But all that discussion aside, really the focus is on 2019 fourth-round pick Jarrett Stidham, who internally is viewed as a good player who just hasn't had the chance to play. So they'll start there, they'll take a look at him, and they'll probably supplement, whether it's with a veteran or a draft pick. But right now, all eyes on Stidham.
All right, Mike Reese, well done. Obviously, as they continue to make decisions there, we'll continue to come back to you. Thank you very much. I want to go to Ryan Clark. Is RC there? I haven't seen Ryan Clark in a very long time, and it will be a delight to see his face and hear his voice and get his perspective. There he is, the one, the only. Ryan Clark is with us. My man, what was your reaction? Let's start with it this way. When you first saw it come across yesterday, Shefty and Darlington, it's going to be Tampa. What was the first thought that entered your mind?
Greeny, if we weren't in the times that we are in now that I just can't believe, this would be the most unbelievable thing that's happened to me in a decade. When you look at Tom Brady and you think about the New England Patriots, listen, I work with a lady here in Baton Rouge. Her name is Catherine Latuitt. I'm going to say her whole name. She's from Foxborough, Mass. She was mad all day. She's sending text messages. I can't believe him. And then I asked her, I said, why are you so upset? She said, I'm 27 years old. He's the only quarterback I've ever known. I feel like I just got a call from my husband and he divorced me. And that's what Tom Brady was to the New England Patriots. And I felt that marriage would last forever. So now that he's in Tampa Bay and you look at the weapons that this team has, it's an unbelievable move. But for Tom Brady, I think it's a fountain of youth move because he knows he has those weapons outside.
The division is an interesting one. Carolina's sort of in a state of flux. Atlanta, sort of tough to tell. Clearly, New Orleans is the team to beat in that division. Do you right now believe Brady's Bucks are better than the Saints?
I don't. And it's not to say that they can't be or won't get there, but this is a new marriage for Tom Brady. This is a new type of relationship. He's never worked with a guy like Bruce Arians, and I worked with Bruce with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He was the offensive coordinator there. He's going to show love to his quarterback. Ben was able to do whatever he wanted to do and kind of move around the building as he wants. So Tom Brady will finally get the treatment that he deserves for being a 10 out of 10 quarterback. But they're going to have to develop that chemistry. We know how he likes to, Bruce Arians likes to push the ball down the football field. And the team that they'll be competing against in the New Orleans Saints, they've been doing this together for over a decade. Drew Brees and Sean Payton, this is 15 years of work, 15 years of success. And the last 3 years, you can argue that the New Orleans Saints were the best team in the NFC and just didn't make the plays late in games in the playoffs. And so we can't jump to it right now and say that Tampa Bay is right where they need to be or better than the Saints, but this definitely closed the gap.
It's remarkable when you think about it. Brady and Breeze will face off twice next year, assuming they both stay healthy. They're a combined 84 years old. Let me go back to the that's just the reality of it. Let's go back to the AFC East here. And you heard me talking to Mike Reese a minute ago. If you're Bill Belichick right now, what are you thinking of doing at the quarterback position?
Well, I think you're going to look internally and understand that Jarrett Stidham is not ready. It's not Jarrett Stidham's time. And coming into the draft last year, you thought getting him in the mid-rounds could be a steal because you would have a future starter. But you don't right now. Cam Newton comes out yesterday and says, you know what, I didn't ask for a trade. You don't do me like that, Carolina. Don't put that narrative out there. But this is a guy, if he's healthy, if you feel like he can quarterback, I think he works in New England. And here's why. Week to week, New England changes as an offense, whether they want to be a run-first offense, if they're an offense that's going to check the ball out of the backfield with their backs, or if they're going to use wide receivers outside. So they can definitely, with Josh McDaniels and all that they have, morph into a team that can work with Cam Newton at the quarterback. We also know that the Indianapolis Colts now have a new quarterback at Phillip Rivers. What does that mean for Jacoby Brissett, who was once the starter in New England when Tom Brady was out and Jimmy Garoppolo goes down. And so there's so many different things that they could do, but they have to get a veteran. They have to get a veteran that can win. And Bill Belichick is going to try to bring back some of that positive energy that he had from the past, going 11-5 with Matt Castle as the starting quarterback after losing Brady in the first game against the Kansas City Chiefs years ago.
RC, you stay safe, my man, all right? And I will see you soon. It's great to talk to you again. Thank you very much.
You do the same.
Meantime,
Yes,
I want to
sir.
go to Tampa, and let's bring in our reporter, Jenna Lane, who covers the Bucs for us at ESPN. And obviously, this is the biggest day they've had in a very long time. Jenna, what has been the reaction to this enormous news inside the Buccaneers organization?
Yeah, there's just been a ton of shock and disbelief. I know some people, including head coach Bruce Arians, are refraining from reacting until pen officially hits paper, but he's keeping his fingers crossed. That's when I reached out to him last night. That's what he told me. But you also have guys like Jason Pierre-Paul. He couldn't contain his excitement. You would have thought he was a kid on Christmas morning. On the other side of things, though, a guy like Mike Evans, who will tell you emphatically that Jameis Winston is his best friend, he's not going to be comfortable celebrating until he knows where he ends up in all this.
Yeah, and where Jameis ends up, which obviously is a huge piece in all of this. There's going to be a lot of talk about fit, because we've seen Jameis and a lot of other quarterbacks that have played for Bruce Arians in the past with 5-step drops, 7-step drops, waiting a long time in the pocket, letting routes develop. That doesn't feel like what Tom Brady does. What do we make of the Brady fit in what Bruce Arians does offensively?
That's a great question. I've been asked that a lot because everybody knows Bruce Arians' motto is no risk it, no biscuit. He loves for his quarterbacks to take chances downfield. But at the same time, and this is something that Blaine Gabbert told me, Arians also tells us quarterbacks, you can't go broke by putting more money in the bank. And what he means by that is any play that is a positive play, any type of completion is seen as a good thing. He wants his quarterbacks to make good decisions. And as his track record has shown, Brady has a knack for being able to make really, really good decisions. And I'll also say this, with Brady's level of experience and Arians' open-mindedness, even though he's somewhat of an old school coach, he also has a lot of new age ways of thinking. And he is more than willing to collaborate with Brady. And not just him, but his entire staff, Byron Leftwich, Clyde Christensen, Tom Moore. They all are more than willing to collaborate with him so that Brady can put his best foot forward and utilize the plays that he is most comfortable using.
That seems to have been an important piece of this for Brady as he was making his decision. Jenna, thank you very much. I'm fascinated by all of Bruce Arians' expressions, by the way, and I'm looking forward to hearing more of those if the Buccaneers have a good year. Jenna, thank you. Meanwhile, as we continue, can Brady lead the Bucs to the Super Bowl? Can Phillip Rivers do the same with the Colts? Marcus and Dan know, and they'll tell you next. Get up on ESPN.